Good afternoon to all my dear colleagues and students who are present here. I, Momita Dedas, Assistant Professor, School of Media and Communication, welcomes you all to this fourth Leadership Series program. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Jayanta Ghosal, veteran journalist and consulting editor of India Today Group. Mr. Jayanta Ghosal has been a political journalist for the past 4 decades. He has worked for the Bengali newspapers Anandabajar Potrika and Bortoman, ABP News, India TV, and is now consulting editor India Today Group. Most of his life has been spent in newsrooms. A journalist, writer, teacher, and speaker, he is a student of the history, politics, and culture of West Bengal and Eastern India. He has authored several books in Bengali about the region and is also a biographer of West Bengal's Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. In September 18, 2020, Ghoshal has been appointed Information and Development Officer by the West Bengal government to liaise with the central government. His recent books are Amar Naam Pakistan, Mamata Beyond 2021, and many others. Today, the theme of this afternoon is priority of news item, market or welfare of mankind. I'll start with a quote by Henry David Thoreau. It is not enough to be busy. The question is, what are we busy about? The Indian media are booming on all fronts, print, electronic, and web journalism. All these owes its credit to globalization and economic reforms ushered into during 1991 to 1996. Which resulted in the reformatting of the newspapers, especially the print media, which not only increased their numbers of pages, but also began to issue special supplements each day under different categories, gender-wise and subject-wise, etc. This was done in order to widen their readership and to cater to the vast advertising requirements of business establishments that had started escalating since 1990. The most important issues for the country are our massive poverty, unemployment, malnutrition, healthcare, casteism, communalism, etc. But our media usually highlights issues of relatively lesser importance or even trivial ones and diverts attention from the more important ones. So it is high time that a straight, honest, hard-hitting critic be addressed about the Indian media. Take a few examples. For weeks, many television channels showed the Sushant Singh Rajput case, Sheena Bora murder case, just as it had some years back showed the Arushi murder case, and etc. Every detail of the case was shown, ignoring the plight of migrant workers, farmer suicides, child malnutrition, massive unemployment, etc. Where all these newsworthy matters? The intention of much of our media is to divert attention of the people from the real issues, facing the masses with non-issues like lives of film stars, petty politics, etc. The Roman emperors used to say, if you cannot give the people bread, give them circuses. The Indian media perhaps taking the cue from that. We have our guest of the honor, Jayanta Ghosal, sir, to enlighten us on these perspectives. Over to you, sir. So you can start your session.
Yeah. Should I start?
Yes, sir. We will have half an hour of your speech, and then we'll have a discussion on Q&A session.
I have a small request before I start, that if you just remind me, I mean, like a alum, just because I am not following my watch.
I'll do that.
So I think I'm audible.
Yeah,
Maybe some little noise is there, but I will manage. I think you can manage.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me properly?
Yeah. Yeah.
So hello. Yeah. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, I'm very happy to meet you again, to say a few words to you, and I will wait for your brilliant questions, and I'm ready to interact. The two things I must start with. The number one, the first point is that what in the beginning, what you have said, madam, I think it is brilliant because that is a theme of today's speech or conversation. The subject is the priority of news, whether it is market driven or it is the welfare of mankind. This is the main focal point. So the three words in these premises: priority of news, market, and third point is welfareism or welfare of mankind or welfare of the human beings, welfare of the state, welfare of the society, whatever it is, basically welfare of people. So the priority of news, it is very important. To being a student of media science, journalism, this priority of news is very important because as madam give us the perspective, I am following that perspective, that there is a distorted priorities we have seen irrespective of media branches. It may be print media, it may be electronic media, it may be digital media. Whatever the faculty is, there is a trend of distortion of the priorities. Now, you can say that distortion, who will determine? Whether it is distortion or not, how it will be judged? Because media is a free sector, it's a free media. It's not a state-controlled media. It's not the owner-controlled media. Actually, the readers, the viewers, they decide. They are the determining factors policy actually. If we cater and if people don't like, then they will reject. So the editorial priorities, usually we think that owners are imposing, we think the state is imposing, but actually it's the other way around. The people actually influence the editorial policy. So it's a two school of thought. Actually, it's a whether the hen and egg theory, whether hen is the source of the egg or egg is the source of hen. So now I think the better approach is, as I think, subject to correction again, that we should take a moderate middle path approach. That is, that readers also influence the editorial policy. The owners, they may be elites of the society, because you know that in the elite theory, since Max Weber, always there are several elite groups. That can be military elites, which is in Pakistan is very important. It can be commercial elite. In India, it's very important. That is the corporate elites. It can be intelligentsia. That can be urban elites. In 19th century Renaissance, these urban elites, they influence the society. So the elites also very important determining factor of the editorial priorities of the media houses. So it is not that easy to control, to dictate. That we can be catalyst. We can accelerate the process, or we can, there can be a negative influence also to restrain the fast movement of the media policies. But you know, the priorities at the outset, I should say, the perception is that there is a distortion of the news priority. Like whether Deepika Padukone in her this latest movie, which is actually digital version, whether in the closed physical touch, whether they used glass, whether it was virtual or whether it was physical. if a serious student of media science, if you do a research, how many column centimeters used, how many digital space, I mean, used, how many electronic video footage, or I mean, the footage, basically the footage used for this story. And as a reader or viewer, I didn't know that there is a Bollywood, not only Bollywood, which is followed by Hollywood, there is a special technical know-how teams and the researchers who, there is a management of this sort of non-physical intimacy management group. I could not think of it because when I see the movie, I feel it as it is. So that is in literature, in film, but behind the scene, these are the stories. And this, now the media is giving this priorities. And this priority, they are saying, in digital they say hit, in electronic they say TRP, in print they say circulation. So circulation, TRP and hit, we are getting because people want it. People can reject it. And in our old school days, I used to work for Bartaman, and in Saptahik Bartaman, when the cover story was Thakur Sri Ramakrishna, there is no return. Each and every 1st January, there is a cover story on Kalpataru Utsav of Thakur Sri Ramakrishna, and there is no return. And there is a lot of repetition of the stories every year. But people wanted that, people read that. Till today, I find a lot of stories on Thakur Sri Ramakrishna. Because once my Diden editor, Varun Sendukar, told me that I got returned from Saptahik Bartaman's cover story when the cover story was on Buddhadev Bhattacharya. But we didn't get any return when Thakur Sri Ramakrishna was the cover story. So that is the appetite and the satiety of the readers of Bengal. They decide actually. The media owners, they don't decide. That was the theory. But now it is more interactive. But now you come to the latest situation. The latest situation is that it is a global phenomenon that the public opinion, because there is a state, there is a government, there is a civil society, there is a political party system, and there is a mass community. So again, I repeat, state, the government, the civil society, then NGOs, then public intellectuals, and the media. At end of the day, in that pyramid, the last slab is mass. Like the animal kingdom, you will find the insects are in that last slab, and a lion and tiger may be in this pyramid. That is for the animal kingdom. So now in this new pyramid, the state, government, and the civil society, public intellectuals is also part of the civil society, and the other mass. Now, the global phenomenon is in democracy. In every country, the Western, the Europe, the influence of election. Election has become a very important. Election has become a determining factor of the society. Election is the key theme of our global phenomenon. And a lot of authors, the American authors, they use the word, now it is a autocratic electoral democracy. I mean, electoral autocracy. And that is, with the nomenclature is democracy, but it is an electoral autocracy. And in that electoral autocracy, the political system, through the statism, it is not seen as a government, but it's the milieu. It's a mood of this society controlled by the media culture. So So the new word has come. It's a media culture. It's a mediatized democracy. So through the media and through the newspaper, social media also you can include. Citizen journalism also you can include. So you are not seeing the state apparatus publicly. There is no state apparatus officially. We are seeing only the private sectors. But unofficial state governments, they are giving revenues. So the revenue the media is getting. If I get revenue from X and you are my source, can I or can we be anti-X who is the revenue giver? Is it possible? So I am taking money. So the economics, end of the day, the economics has come. I am not talking about the economic determinism. Everything I don't want to analyze through only economics, because there are a lot of cultural issues out there. The economics and the culture, it's a mixed concept. And the media culture is determined by the economics of the country. So there is a very interesting quotation of a political scientist. In my college days, I used to use, I mean, it's a very close to my heart, that the business of politics is controlled by the politics of business. So the politics of business. So here we don't have the army control in our democracy. There is a corporate control. You can ask me how. So the state control, corporate control, the state governments and the corporate sectors, they are actually work together. So like that, like I'm telling you, giving an example. If I want to install the huge statue of Sardar Patel in Gujarat, I'm not saying anything against any political party or any political individual. I'm personally not, I don't believe actually. I have an opinion as a voter, as a citizen of this country, as a journalist. I'm not at all prejudiced. I don't have any jersey, thankfully. So I'm just trying to tell you the dynamics, the social dynamics, because when we are installing the Sardar Patel statue, you need sponsors. If the government money, then the citizens' money. What is the government's money? This is our money. So we are giving the taxes and the economics of the government. And then number two, apart from the government sector, you need private sponsors. So the private corporate houses, they are the main contributors to the big events, big installation. Even now, if government or the nation want to install the big 4 Hanuman statues, just hypothetically, there is a need of money, either from the government schemes or from the private parties. So like the metro installations, it may be metros, railway, it may be Hanuman statues. Be that as it may, you need money. And that money is coming from either government sector, that is our money, that is the taxes payers money, or corporate money, that is the private money. They are actually giving you the private money. So this one corporate group, they are giving donation to the political party for election. They are giving money to invest in different sectors like universities. Now the privatization of universities are done. So who will invest? So the priorities, now the last part of my conversation or my take is, like, I was in Glasgow climate conference. The scientists were there. The UK government invited. So the London government, when they invited me, I asked that I am a political editor. I'm not a climate specialist. Why were you inviting me? They said that we need more political involvement of political editors. I asked why. They said because the priorities of the climate consciousness, the climate correspondents, the science correspondents, they are writing, they are ventilating for pretty long time, but nobody is listening. The mass, we have to reach to the mass. It's not only for the scientists or the technocrats or the bureaucrats or the political people. I have to go to the mass. And to reach to the mass, to the political people, we should go through you, I mean the political leaders. I'm giving you an example. In the Glasgow summit, I found they are discussing Sundarban. The level of sea is a very serious concern. The height, the level of sea is going down. And it will be catastrophic. And not only the Sundarban area, because the land and the sea level, there should be a equilibrium. And if this equilibrium is disturbed and the sea level is higher than the land, and there will be huge water flow, and the plain land will be underwater. And not only the South Chobbish Pargana, it can be through Bengal, it can be disaster if you cannot control that before, long before, because the scientists are alarming, they are alerting. Are we conscious? A citizen of South Chobbish Pargana, how much knowledge he has on this catastrophe? And you know, this South Chobbish Pargana, I was reading a British historian's book only on Bengal's famine and the catastrophe and the cyclones. Basically, on cyclones, he has wrote that book. He was a British bureaucrat. In that book, I found that we have a legacy, unfortunate tradition of the catastrophic cyclone and in this region, in this Bay of Bengal area. Till today, after so many years from the British period, we have not done so much on this issue. So this is a simple one issue. I visited the Sundarban of Bangladesh, that part. Bangladesh government has done a lot of things. How? Because Bangladesh is a small country. They are giving more focus to the Sundarban development. They are getting the World Bank money and their GDP is better than our GDP actually now. You can say that it's a small country, so they can achieve, we cannot achieve. But actually, I was amazed seeing the Bangladesh. So now, this consciousness in Bengal, and charity begins at home. I am a born journalist and I should start from Bengal. So our focus, like the Himalaya, China, why China is interested on Himalaya? One, I mean, young journalist like you told me that, you know why? The main reason is water. There is a scarcity of water, the future of water. Maybe we may not be there here, but you will be there and you will find the cost of water maybe more than petrol one day. And we are not conscious. So the role of media, are we ventilating? I have given two examples because there are so many examples. It will take more time, but just two examples. We are not giving priorities to those issues. We are not giving priorities to the joblessness. We are not giving priorities to the economic agendas. And all politicians, be that as it may, irrespective of party line, BJP can go for Hindutva agenda and they can highlight Ram, Hanuman, this, that, in Jahangirpura, in Delhi, what happened, we all know. So this Hindu-Muslim polarization, it's maybe a political, sensitive, emotive issue. But for the welfareism, for the, even I'm giving a very interesting anecdote that can explain my thesis. That once Arun Jaitley told me, Arun Jaitley was finance minister, late Arun Jaitley, and he was a very modern man. He's a BJP man, he was a famous lawyer in the Supreme Court. His father was also a lawyer. And Arun Jaitley, he was a very liberal person. Although he is in BJP, but he was a very liberal person. He was not a hawk Hindu type BJP. Arun Jaitley, that time Uma Bharti was chief minister of Madhya Pradesh. Arun Jaitley visited Madhya Pradesh for a rally. I was there. I was covering that rally. I went with Arun. So there, Arun was actually he is not a Jai Sri Ram type politician like Uma Bharti. She was there. She was completely the brand Hindu leader. As chief minister, she was very popular also. But Arun was explaining the economic progress of this country, and as our BJP's finance, he was explaining, and he was saying that I have done this, I have done this. There is no clap. There is no, vibration in that crowd. But end of the speech, Uma Bharti suggested that end of the speech, Arun, you should वो नारा दे देना जय श्री राम वाला नारा दे दो. तो जय श्री राम वाला नारा दे दो. So after the speech, Arun Jaitley said Jai Sri Ram. Immediately it was electrified crowd. It's a completely different crowd. So the people, they want from BJP leaders that Jai Sri Ram and that development plan. If Narendra Modi wants it, he is helpless. In election, always people want it. So if we blame the politicians only, it's not correct. We people of India, according to our preamble, we people of India, we are also not interested to know about the sea level in Sundarban or the future of the crisis of water or what will be the solution of joblessness. We are interested on Ram Rahim, Jai Sri Ram, and not only BJP. If you see the Trinamool politics also, the welfareism is a subsidized to keep people happy. Agenda, political agenda, like the education. What is the education policy? Is anybody interested? Are you interested to know that what is the education policy of the government of India? Last point, in Parliament, the senior speakers, they speak. We don't prioritize. One speaker told me, Somnath Chatterjee was a speaker. In the 0 hour, there is a 0 hour in Parliament, and that time usually the MPs they fight, and they come to the well, fight for the constituency, small issues, and we give publicities. Somnath Chatterjee told me that in Parliament, after the lunch, there are a lot of good speeches, very important policy-oriented speeches. The member of parliaments, they study, they do homework. There are a lot of theoretical analysis. But you media, you don't prioritize that. And after lunch, the media bench, the media gallery is completely vacant. So pre-lunch, only the 0 hour, we focus. So we want Sansani. That gives us TRP. So this breaking news media culture and source driven.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have 7 minutes more.
Yeah, thank you very much to alert me. And I think already I have whatever I had to say, I finished. But I think I can show you one book. It's my favorite book. And for the students, if you are interested, you should read the book. The name of the book is The Universal Journalist. I don't know whether I mentioned it earlier or not. Dipankar Sinha, the Dean of Political Science, Calcutta University, my contemporary, my friend, he also has written a book on media culture. And Routledge from London, they have published a book. And there is a Bengali book also from Dej publication, Media Sanskriti. And this book, I want to show you this book. This is a very interesting book on this media. This is a textbook. Actually, it's in Cambridge. It's a textbook for journalists, but universal journalists. Only I will mention to you the only one sentence, because you know the chapters. Sorry, I'm just settling properly. The chapters I will mention, you will understand how interesting the book is. The first chapter is what makes a good reporter. The second chapter, the limitations of journalism. Third chapter, what is news? The fourth chapter, where do good stories come from? Fifth chapter, research. Research is very important. Now, the priority of news should be determined by how much research you are doing. Earlier, there is no research. It's only source driven. Tini bolilen, he said, he added, period. We don't cross check also. Now, in Economist magazine in Delhi, the one American editor is there, 4 journalists are there, and the research team 25 people. So the research, what actually earlier our sub-editors used to do, the research wing should be, it's very important. Then research, after that, handling sources, not them handling you. This is very important. I think all journalists, I mean, can show this like a signboard. Handling sources, not them handling you. Then questioning. Always you should question your propositions. You should not hearsay. Korneno pashyati, no. Kandiya journalism hobe na. Feludar moto mobojastra use korte hobe. Questioning. Reporting numbers and statistics. Without numbers, without statistics. Investigative reporting, how to cover major incidents. Interesting 11th chapter, mistakes, correction, and hoaxes. 12th chapter, ethics. 13th chapter, writing for newspapers. 14, intros. Intros is very important. Construction and description. 16, handling quotes. Sometimes our quotes should not be dominated beyond our text. The different ways to tell a story. That is also very important. How to communicate. You have to communicate. End of the day, if you can't communicate, and comment intentional and otherwise, and how to be a good reporter. This sources 62. Only one sentence I will say, and then I will stop. 62. 20 years ago, the normal source in the average city dealt with maybe a couple of papers, a radio and a TV station. Today, news outlets have proliferated to the point where any local official source deals with perhaps 2 cover price papers, several free sheets, especially local business magazine or 2, maybe 2 radio station, a TV station, 3 cable channels, and a rapidly rising number of news or community websites. So now the guideline is that if you have a cable channel, you are the owner, you are the politician, you can start a cable channel. You can control citizen journalism, and then you manufacture the stories. You can show the riot of Bangladesh, and you can tell this is the riot of Midnapur. This is fake news. This is a post-truth journalism. And sometimes it is manufactured intentionally. There is a chapter on intention. Otherwise, unintentionally also, that media culture, I said, that you can, media culture also sometimes you are controlled by the priorities of, like I mentioned, that whether this Deepika Padukone's that intimate scene is virtual or physical, it should be priority, or the price rise and inflation should be the priority of a news item. So this is, media has become a part of entertainment industry. Everything is not entertainment. Everything is now entertainment. So if the death news also we are showing sometimes like a entertainment stories. The reporters taking bites of the mother who lost his son and asking that what is your feeling today? And she is crying, and we are giving the footage. One journalist told me that Kandle ota TRP bade, jerokom agun, the fire, cry. So everything is robotic. But if it is the priority, because in freedom movement time, the newspaper's role was to fight against the colonial British rule. That was, there is ethical morality. But now, post-independence, that factor, anti-imperialism, freedom movement. So we don't want to be free now. We think we are free, but are we free? Is the battle is over? I think now we, the journalists, we have responsibility to fight the battle, because in this NDTV, journalist got a very good award. I was listening his speech that it's a movement. It's not only a profession. We have to go to the people, to the remote villages, because we this P. Saina has written a book, Who Loves Drought. So we don't want a story of drought. Famine. We want crime. As one senior journalist of Times of India once told me, that we have three priorities: three C: crime, cinema, and cricket. If we prioritize like this, then what would be the fate of our future of human mankind? We have responsibility. I'm not saying that from tomorrow we will forget the TRP. Then our business will be down. The owners cannot give us the salary. But we can start with some mission which should take a middle path. We should not be completely duty-lessness. We should not have only entertainment, and the prioritization should not be distorted like this, because we have some responsibility to influence the people also, not only the people's eagerness, and it is not only the tabloid stories, it's not only the gossip, the serious news items, like the third COVID, whether the COVID will come or not. If a journalist do serious research, take serious interviews of the scientists, I think it's a good page one story now. Everybody is asking that whether again COVID is coming or not. But no serious story as such I have not seen with research. Only the Western media, they do. But we don't prioritize even science news also. So I think I have what I wanted to say. I have spoken. So I am stopping myself here. And if you have any question, we are ready to ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your brilliant, always been very engaging conversation. Sir, আমাদের ডিন স্যার আছেন?
আছেন?
My apologies, ভাইস চ্যান্সেলর স্যার মিটিং ডেকেছিলেন, এতক্ষণ ধরে ওনার সাথেই ছিলাম আমরা সবাই, সেই জন্য আমি
না তুমি আছো এটা তো আমি না জানতাম না, একদিক থেকে ভালো হয়েছে। তুমি আছো জানলে আমি আরো নার্ভাস হয়ে
যেতাম। বলো, আমি জাস্ট একটা মিনিট নেব। I just want to tell students about how Jayanta and I, with your permission, so dear students and respected faculties, I would just like to share that Jayanta and I go way back actually. It would be a decade for sure, 2011-12 তো বটেই। আমি খুব ব্রিফলি আনন্দবাজারে কাজ করেছিলাম, and Jayanta has been kind of a doyen of one of the pillars of Anandabazar, being the editor of Delhi in Anandabazar. I was with the Business World when Business World was still with Anandabazar. I was a senior editor with them in Bombay. Delhi as he primarily, but as I know Jayanta always says that I'm always confused which is my home, Calcutta or Delhi. So I'm between the two cities, torn between the two cities. Jayanta is one of the pillars of journalism. He has been doing a wonderful, credible, very respectable work for journalism, for Anandabazar for the longest period now. He was with India TV, and then now as a consultant with India Today, and consulting editor with India Today. And I have seen the way Jayanta has a very interesting perspective of things, and that is something I think Jayanta can help or guide you to form of yours, that there has to be a signature of a journalist in terms of his speech, in terms of the way he presents in the television. There has to be a signature, there has to be a style, and Jayanta has a very, very casual, non-challenge style, but not aggressive, but if you listen to the points that he's making, they're extremely powerful. So that is something that you also need to develop. Developing that aggression in the body language, it is more important that you develop that aggression in the content, whether you're writing or you're talking. So that is something that, as you see Jayanta in his imperial style, he's, with a very, very calm and soothing smile, he's going to say something very powerful. And that comes with maturity, that comes with dedication to the craft. And I'm so glad Jayanta is able to guide you, on a sustained basis. And thanks, Jayanta, for guiding our
No,
students.
I'm very fond of you. I'm very fond of you. And I think your strength is, I should tell the students also, I'm very sincere with my sincere heart. That you are a very versatility you have. That's very important. Sometimes I was afraid that if a person, if I draw, if I paint, if I write, so how I will manage. But you managed several things in your life. Even now, administration and the dean, it's a new role. You're new avatar. So I think that is also, I appreciate. I salute of your role. And I think this is a very unique, style you have formed, this lecture series also. With it's a new branding. I observe that is also a good thing, and it's a very interesting beginning. This sort of.
Thank you, Jayanta. Jayanta, আমার সিনেমা বেরোচ্ছে অপরাজিত 13 তারিখে মেতে।
হ্যাঁ দেখলাম, আমি দেখলাম সিনেমার প্রমোট তো নয়, ওটাকে বলে যে ওটা কি যেন বলে,
ট্রেলার সরি
হ্যাঁ এটা দেখলাম।
ঠিক আছে,
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Actually, আরো ইন্টারেস্টিং একটা জিনিস বলি, যে আমরা জার্নালিস্টদের তো গ্রাউন্ড জিরো। আজকে অ্যাকচুয়ালি আমি গ্রাউন্ড জিরো থেকেই করছি, বাড়ি থেকে করছি না, অফিস থেকে করছি না। আমি এসেছিলাম এই অ্যাপেলের, আমার একটা ডিস্টার্ব হচ্ছিল, আমি যদি ডিস্টার্ব হতো তাহলে জুমটা করতেই পারতাম। তো ছেলেটা সারিয়ে দিল। আমি তো ম্যাডামকেও বললাম যে আমি একটু ট্রাবলের মধ্যে আছি, জানি না করতে পারবো কিনা। তো আমি তারপরে এই আই ডেস্টিনি, ওদের যে রুম, সেই আই ডেস্টিনি থেকে করছি, একদম ওদের সেলস রুম থেকে। কিন্তু দে হ্যাভ টলারেটেড মি বিকজ ইটস এ জুম কনফারেন্স এট মাই প্রাইভেট থিং। বাট ও বললো যে না ঠিক আছে, দুপুরবেলায় কোনো অসুবিধা নেই, অত ঠিক। So that is also, so I should acknowledge today Apple's also.
Thanks to iDestiny for
iDestiny, yeah. Thanks to iDestiny.
Yeah. Over to you. So Momita will take up from here on the question answer series. I'll take your leave, sir.
Thank you. Ma.
So we have a couple of questions. Before that, I was just pointing some of the talking points, major talking points you have mentioned. Like you mentioned about 3 C's, those that we can see at the starting of my, introducing that. I stated the same thing, that crime, cricket, and cinema. These 3 actually. I think the advertisers are also very keen to with the market oriented. There's one question, sir. It was whether we can say that media is deviating from welfare of mankind, like the title that we have kept, priority of news. You stated that there should be a mid path, but as a reader, I can say that I can't see that mid path at all. I'm sorry to say, but do you think that we are losing on that mid path, or why this? Do you have any answer to that?
Yeah, should I?
Yeah, please. This is my question. Yeah.
I think we should not be a very what I can say, the meant reply, because we should not think that it is completely, we should not take a very cynical view that the priorities of news, completely lost. No relevance of welfareism, no relevance of the mankind's, projection of the interest of the people of this country. It's a completely went off. If we say this, that will be again oversimplification. But the percentage of news items, if anyone scan that how many stories, how much importance for the, the philanthropic reasons we are writing, and how many stories, space, digital, electronic we are giving for the sensationalized TRPism, then I think there is a growing trend for that priority distortion of news item. If you scan the page one of the all hard newspapers, hard copies of the newspaper, if you scan the digital, then you will find. But if you say that there is no story, there are a lot of, just Anandabajar Patrika also, they do a lot of stories, not only the taxi driver Shatota. That is a typical story of the honesty of a taxi driver who have given back the huge amount of 50,000 rupees to the passenger. So that type of honesty stories, or the television media, they give award to a person, maybe a police constable, who actually, apart from his police work, who give time to the welfare of the society. Just recently, I was in Anandabajar digital event for the best award ceremony. The first award they gave a police district level police worker, because he does lot of social, philanthropic missions apart from his work. That is not his job, but he has floated an NGO, and for the poor people, downtrodden masses, they work. So we are highlighting, but this is very scattered, and this is a very symbolic, but it's a very, but in our media culture, this sort of stories are still less prioritized. The number of stories, what I mentioned, and it is not only this Deepika Padukone's, whether that it was physical kiss, or it was there was a glass. That priority, I'm not talking about a single story. I don't have anything against Deepika Padukone or anything Netflix, because it's a trend. And in fact, I was mentioning that I didn't know that in the television business, in this movie world, there is a separate technical team who handle this sort of intimate physical scenes without physicality, and people, they don't know. So if there is a story, it's a know-how. It's a know-how story. So I'm not saying that this story should be banned. I'm not that conservative. But in sea level, what I mentioned, the sea level of Sundarban area, is it not a good story? And what are the life of the widows in Sundarban, the tigers, they have taken their husbands, how they are living. In Chennai, there's an Institute of Mass Communication. Actually, that P. Sainath I was mentioning, he is a teacher, he's a lecturer there. So I went there, I stayed there a few days, only to understand the Chennai's, that media institute, how they prioritize the news. But if you do only this sort of welfare stories, the people will say that it has become very boring. So for interest making, we have to do these things. So I am not a very conservative journalist, that I am not suggesting that you have to give a lectures of value, education. But the priorities of this to build up the consciousness. If we completely away from that I think it's it. So your question, it is true that there is a deviation. Sometimes it's a conscious also, sometimes it's a political, because like Lalu Prasad Yadav once he said that जब तक बिहार में जब तक समोसा में आलू तब तक बिहार में लालू, तो पूछा गया था क्यों, बोला क्योंकि गरीबी है ना, तो जब तक गरीबी is the आलू of that samosa. If there is a poverty, so lalu is there. If the people will be conscious, then the politician will face a lot of trouble. But whether we will follow the politicians or we should educate our masses, that priority should be determined, and the youngsters have a duty to create that new roadmap. That I think.
We have a couple of questions from students. First, from Obhirup Shengupto. He's very regular with your sessions. He loves it. So his question is, in regards to the recent incident of a climate activist setting himself on fire in front of the US Supreme Court on Earth Day, how best to use these sensitive incidents to critique the lawmakers to implement more efficient environmental laws?
It's a brilliant question. I completely agree with you. We should highlight, but my counter question is, because I am not in a regular day-to-day basis journalism mode, so I have the right to ask that question now. That how many, I'm in Bengal now, I'm asking the Bengal media, how many newspapers have carried that photograph and have done the story? Just do a research work. Digital, social media, we have seen the viral photos, but we should start a dialogue on that. We should use this opportunity. It's a very sad incident. I'm giving you an example. In the World War time, in Vietnam War, the Buddhist monk, they fired themselves, and I think it's a AP photograph. I may be wrong, or any AP or some international agency did a brilliant photograph. It's a color photograph, and in that fire, the 2-3 monks, they were sitting in a meditation mode, and it was on protest of the US aggression against Vietnam. So they are monks. They were monks. They could have said that it is Maya and we don't have any citizens' responsibility. But as Swami Vivekananda said, that monks are also citizens of this country and there is a lot of social responsibility. Swami Vivekananda also has started this sort of school of monks who work for plague, who work for, today also they are doing a lot of social work. So that monks, and that actually in psychology, that photograph is a matter of study, because it's a chapter, there is suicide chapter and altruistic suicide. It called altruistic suicide, that monks, they have made their life. So, and that photograph created a major impact in our society, that altruistic suicide of the monks against the aggression. So now if in Ukraine war, if this sort of protest is there, and if we could highlight. So I'm not saying that for our media publicity, somebody has to die. We are not, proposing death. But if it happens naturally, we should use this opportunity. And you have raised a very good question. You have alerted me, and I will try to do some follow-up stories with my end. Thank you.
Our next question is from Chandrima Das. She's asking, journalism can often be influenced by commercial interest of advertisers. How to cope up with them?
Sorry, modeling?
Journalism can often be influenced by commercial interest of advertisers. How to cope up? Another question is, how can one be both ethically and legally correct by maintaining a fair balance while working in the field?
Sorry, last question is? Last question?
Last question is, how can one be both ethically and legally correct by maintaining a fair balance while working in the field? Field means journalism.
Working
in the field.
Working in?
Field.
The first question is that, the corporate interest and the journalist morality. Yes, a lot of in my last 40 years of journalism, I have seen. There is a major. It's a dialectics. It's a conflicts. But that conflict is life. That is the truth. The ideal peace and tranquility in a journalist's life. That's the ideal. Ideal is ideal. That's why it's ideal. It cannot be achieved. That's why it is ideal. But each and every day, it's a challenge for a journalist to fight with that. Sometimes you have to build a strategy, and sometimes it's tactics and strategy also different. You have to be tactical. So my first premises is that as a journalist, because the media owners, journalists are not same. Big media house owners are also like the corporate bosses. So in a mode of production, is journalist just like a nut bolt too. So I think we should work together. Like I have to file a story of a rape. Now the priority of rape, আমি নিজেই ঠিক করছি যেটা কতটা দেব কতটা দেব না। কর্পোরেট হাউসে আমাকে অ্যাড দিচ্ছে, they are giving ad revenue. Like the Reliance is giving, I'm giving just specific example. Reliance is giving ad. Now in the 2G spectrum time, the big owners are getting the revenue from Reliance. Can they file the stories against Reliance? Yes and no. Why? It is not true that all owners are dictating the journalists. Usually they don't dictate. If I say that I was dictated by the owner not to write against Reliance, it's wrong. Because it's an open market, and in a market there is a competition. It's a Adam Smith's world. And here not only Reliance versus Adani is there, Adani versus Tata is there. So if it's not like that. If my newspaper is owned by Reliance, then it is difficult to go against Reliance. But you can go against Tata. I know one journalist. He revealed against Reliance a lot of stories. She has written books. He's a famous journalist. But someone told me that to supply those information, anti-Reliance corporate houses, they helped him. They provided information, they gave money to do these things. Now you tell me, publicly I am anti-Reliance, so I am honest, I am a very moralist position. But if I am getting some support, revenue support from the other house, that public don't know. So it's a pluralistic market economy. It's not a very clear-cut, only Reliance, only Adani. There is a lot of layers in the corporate houses also. In fact, the Watergate scandal, the journalist, the famous scandal, how it has come out? Because the rival group, they gave it. In journalism, we always dependent, even the defense stories, even usually the source of defense stories, usually in the global accepted fact, that they have not contractors, defense contractors. They give the information first, not the politicians. Because politicians are involved with the deal, they will not disclose this. And the reputation will be disturbed. But the contractor, if they don't get, because in the newspaper industry that have not dissidents, they come to give us news. If you are satisfied, you will not give news to against someone. You will provide information against someone if you are dissatisfied with the deal or with the person. Even in the village also, if one X is against Y, they give information against Y. So I think these layers, if we understand, then we can manage how to survive in this complicated world. But we can keep our morality with that, and we can use the conflict as a source of information also. So it's not like that. Reliance against no Malik says this. In fact, Reliance started a newspaper, Observer, once upon a time, and they stopped it. And Tony Jesudasan, he was the editor of that Observer newspaper. It's a huge pink newspaper, and they stopped it. I asked why. Reliance started the newspaper and Reliance stopped it. Why? They said, after starting the newspaper, our relationship with Times of India and several other groups deteriorated. Because Reliance was not in the newspaper, big industry. We are in the petroleum industry. We used to give the revenue to the newspapers. Now we have launched the newspaper and we are taking the revenue from the other corporate houses because we have to run the newspaper. We have to give the salary to our journalists and the non-journalists and everybody, PF, gratuity. And the big houses, they are not happy because there is a competition. So Reliance has become a party in the competitors, group of competitors. So it's a new competitor. So they actually were against us. So we thought it is better to keep good relationship with the journalists. And this huge maintenance of the group, giving a lot of money to the salaries, provident fund, gratuities, labor, and then discontent of the other corporate houses and the big industries, they stopped it. They said that it's better to have peer department, and that peer department will give space to the journalists. They will look after the journalists, and we can manage our public relations through those journalists, and we don't have any conflict with the newspapers. Later, now Mukesh Ambani has started TV18 channels. That's a different thing because time has changed. Everybody is coming to the media houses. So after Z and after now, in fact, Adani is also coming in a huge way very soon in the media industry because now it is not only the news media. It's a social media, it's a digital media, it's a entertainment channels. So it's a huge package now. So what I was talking about, the stopping of Observer newspaper, that maybe 30 years back. So again, there is a trend to participation in the news. But you know, this TV18, a lot of people, they don't know it's run by Mukesh Ambani because they don't give any photo. They are not projecting because they are projecting Mukesh Ambani in other business. Their petroleum business is coming. That is their mother business. But in the media business, they are investing money, but not highlighting. They're very low key in a very strategic move. So these are the very interesting aspects what you have raised. I think I have said enough.
We have another last question. Often the mainstream media outlets don't show the news that won't bring views. This leads to common people miss out on the crucial information like on Indian economy or issues like Northeast Kashmir that actually caters to mankind's welfare. Do you believe in this influenced mostly by popular consumer trends or mostly by political propaganda? This is by Pratiti. Pratiti is always regular with your sessions. So,
Yeah. Thank you very much, Prakriti. Thank you. It's a good question indeed. And I think the reply is mixed. Both the factors, it work together. I mean, the politicians, they don't want the major real issues where they will be challenged, they will be, and irrespective of the party line. Again and again, I want to mention this. It's not we should not see it in a TMC, BJP prism or Congress left prism. It's a, in fact, Republican and Democrat also they behave like that. So politicians, they don't want to highlight, you know, the in Kashmir, the stone throwing militants. Who are those militants? From where they are getting stones? Why they are throw stones? You know, I studied the huge, because it's a very prolonged research we did once upon a time. even the paramilitary force and the police force, they used to position the old man of the village in the first row, and they used to keep behind him to detect the, the slipping dynamites and the ID blast, the sudden blast. A lot of occasions, the old man of the village died for the blast, but police didn't die. So this issue is a covered issue. It's not a what I'm saying. It's nothing new, and it's not before 2014. It happened. It's not a BJP time. It happened earlier also, and that time is a issue of human rights violation against the paramilitary forces. That time Congress was in power. So these are the issues. If we go by only the political party prism, sometimes, because irrespective of party lines, for the ages it is happening in the Kashmir, those boys. If what Delhi is saying now, if it is actualization takes place, if there is an IIT in Kashmir, if there is a lot of educational facilities, Kashmir can, be the beneficiary. I don't know. Whether the issue is the IIT or the issue is 370. And our media, we the media, will highlight the IIT. How many stories have come on the proposition of IIT in Kashmir? What will be the role of IIT in Kashmir? Have you seen a good story on the IIT in Kashmir? We have seen stories on violence in Kashmir. We have seen the stories of the 370s impact in Kashmir. We have not seen any, because when I visited Kashmir once, I visit very regularly. So long back, I found DPS started, Delhi Public School. Now Delhi Public School is in Calcutta also. So Delhi Public School started in Kashmir, Srinagar. And Delhi Public School, the one clergyman, I visited the house, and the boy is a grandson of Gilani, the late Gilani. And I visited his son-in-law's house, daughter's house. And his son-in-law was a journalist, Iftikhar Gilani. He was in jail in Tihar once upon a time. He was a journalist of Kashmir Times that time. So he sent his son, the Gilani, the hardliner Gilani's grandson, to Delhi Public School. And he is very happy. He's learning English, not to the madrasa, but he's not against madrasa. And one clergyman, one priest, he comes to teach Quran every day. And Gilani was telling me that when the clergyman comes at 6 p.m., he was not very keen to learn Quran. Today I am not very good in this, there's a pain in my belly. So, and Gilani told me that, look, I sent him to Delhi Public School to learn the Western knowledge and everything. But I think the knowledge of Quran is also necessary. I think, yes, both are necessary. We read that. So that doesn't mean that we are not learning the Western and the modern technological knowledge and all this. So this DPS, they started, and still today there is a DPS. A lot of Kashmiri youths, they are going to DPS, they're educating, and afterwards they're coming to Delhi. A lot of people are, and in fact, Iftikhar's daughter, now she is studying MBBS, and not in Kashmir. So I think the generations, they are changing habits, but we are not covering those areas properly. Because the Kashmiri, what are the changes occurring through IIT and the Delhi Public School? The people of Bengal, people of Kerala also should know. Then the Akhand Bharat concept will be more effective. Unfortunately, we are not priorities that. That is my, take on this. I think I have replied to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So we are coming to the closing session, and it has been very, engaging and thought-provoking. Yes, with your words, it's all that matter is so that media can come to the mid path, and there's a we can't deny the market. We can't say that without advertisements we can't survive. Our media can't survive. That we know, because I have been part of media too. For 8 long years, I have been a journalist. I've worked with Times of India while in Kolkata. They launched this, editorially, how to, manufacture stories without, the knowledge that it's a advertising oriented. So it was highly criticized. Then later on, all the media houses also followed Times of India with editorially they are accepting money, and then they are writing features. Now the thing is, we can't deny the market. We can't deny that this is very essential for survival strategy, because at the end of the day it's all bread and butter. We can't deny the fact that compromising on that. But yes, welfare of mankind is very essential, because as history says, as legend says, we know that Indian media has always been flagship for welfare, because we started our struggle was with freedom struggle, and good for the mankind. So with the words of Sir, that it should have a mid path, and orientation must be much more inclusiveness. All that matters, inclusiveness. With those words, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
And,
you.
yeah. And
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.